The show where anything goes. Motivation, mindset, recovery, philosophy, and life. We become who we are through what we experience. We all have a story, and this is My Backstory with Josh Boyer.
And we're live. Like everyone can hear this right now. It's like totally live. I'm just kidding. I mean, we're live recording, but yeah. Anyway, I'm here with Christine Zador in Linden, California at the Linden Gun Range. She's actually the owner of this amazing gun range. So a little backstory on how I met Christine. We were in a class together, and she was like totally kicking ass, like shooting better than pretty much everybody there. And I was like, dude, who is this chick? And come to find out, she's a competitive shooter. So I was like, well, no shit, she's doing amazingly well. And she owns the range, so she can shoot literally whatever she wants. But during the course of that class, like after we were done, we went and had an amazing cheeseburger at a local, what was that place called?
Lagoria's.
Oh, so good. So when it had a nice little burger, and so we started talking a little bit, and I picked up a little bit of like her backstory. That like her dad and mom owned this range, and then when they passed away, they like left this to her. So now it's like she never really had any anticipation of like running a gun range, and like here she is. This is where she was raised, and now she's back here, and she's an entrepreneur and like building this into like an amazing gun range and collaborating with a lot of really amazing people. So I wanted to come out here and have her share her story because I think it's pretty fascinating. So you're going to do most of the talking. I know you're probably nervous, but don't be. It's totally cool. And just share your story, like your upbringing, what it was like, the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever, doesn't matter. And then talk about like maybe going to USC and what that was like, and anything else you want to talk about. It's an open forum, so take it away.
Well, I guess in '79, my dad and mom took over the range from the county, and they started off by having, big competitions, and to loop to the end of all this, like my goal right now is to do what my parents had going on a long time ago.
Right.
And so I grew up in an environment where, the matches that they had were a full event we had a large swimming pool going on because my dad has a background in swimming and water polo. And so moms and the kids were all swimming in the pool, and big barbecues were had afterwards. People were staying campers all over. There was tents. I was a target setter. So these events brought this amazing community into one small property out in California. And it was just a really great experience growing up. And I remember them being so happy when this was all going on. The silhouette matches couldn't go on because of ricochet issues. And then there's some other issues that arose that kind of brought the range really down in the dumps. And then, my mom started to develop some Alzheimer's. And about that time, I was, done with USC, my school at USC, and I was living in New Mexico, and my dad requested me to come home to help him take care of my mom. And so that's what I did. As you said, I didn't really have any anticipation to run this range for the rest of my life. It was never, when I was growing up, that wasn't what I envisioned. Not that I'm sure I really knew what I was going to do, but I didn't think it was that. So once I came back, I just kind of fell into my position here, helping my dad run the place. And in 2011, he passed, and I immediately turned it into a corporation, hired a staff, and then continued to care for my mom for a year until she passed in 2013. And so here I am. I didn't start actually competitive shooting until a couple of years ago. I stayed away from the industry. My staff would joke they couldn't even get me to come up and shoot on the range with them. I really didn't have an interest in it. But a competition came around called the American Marksman, and I was so new, and I placed a lot of pressure on myself just because everybody expected me to be a really good shooter just because I had grown up on a shooting range. And like you said, you probably get to shoot whenever you want, but living somewhere where you work, it's really not as easy as you would think for me to get out on the range and take time to practice. So I called upon somebody to help me kind of get acclimated to shooting and doing the competitive things. So I ended up going to the regional competition, and I won the ladies division, which took me to the CMP range in Alabama. Beautiful facility. And I competed at nationals, and only 20 people overall out of 8 sections, 5,000 people made it to nationals. And I was like in the picture final, I went up against this kid who was a 3-gunner, and he slayed it with the on a plate rack, and it was like the string 3 last plate falling at the same time, which one fell down first. They had to look at the playback, but I was the last female in our, in the competition that had a chance to make it to the top 10 to move on to the next stage. So, and I didn't win, but I remember walking off of that and crying. I was really sad and stuff. But then we went to the Talladega Raceway and had a great time and had some fun. And it was just all together. I had about 8 of my best friends who traveled all the way to Alabama to support me. And so
super cool. That
was the beginning. And then I started doing Steel Challenge was my first. I did 1 Steel Challenge match, I think, and started getting into USPSA. And ever since we started doing that about a year and a half ago, we started the club here, the Linden Competitive Shooting Club. And we started with 1 USPSA match a month. Now we do 2, and now we do 1 Steel Challenge match a month. And it was fantastic. We maxed out at 102 shooters, and often during the peak season, we're, waitlisting. We did a major match on Sunday and did it what we call a glorified club match. And so, it's kind of with the intention of what it would be like to go and compete on a national, level 2, level 3 competition, and give you a inexpensive way to experience that with, ramps and Cooper tunnels and swingers and just complex but very well thought out stages. And so we had a full 112 people compete, and there was like 20 people on the wait list, and it was a fantastic event. Some things had happened at this one in particular that has been kind of consuming the last few days of my energy, but just moving on from that. But the experience has been really, really great. I'm blessed by my community. I feel the essence of what my parents had going on when I was growing up coming back to life here. And that's really my intention. That's where my energy is pulling me to, is just to bring in the community and give them a safe place and a positive atmosphere to do what they love, support the Second Amendment, and, meet great people like yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Why Linden, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what brought your parents to this area?
Well, so my dad defected from Hungary. He was a water polo player, a famous water polo player. He
was he in the Olympics and stuff.
Gold medalist.
Yeah, just a gold medal. No big deal.
He was a face of uprising because in that historic game, they were playing against the Soviets, and one of the players, my dad was pretty much the MVP of the game at that time, and one of the Soviets punched him in the face, and the pool turned bloody. And so he and Quentin Tarantino and Lucy Liu actually co-produced a documentary called Freedom's Fury with my dad's faces on the front of it. But yeah, so when he came, he worked here for a while after the Olympic Games, and ended up marrying somebody and staying in the States. And then they divorced, and my dad actually coached my mom in Pleasanton, and they have a 10-year age gap. And then they reconnected later on in life, and they found the property out here. They were in the Bay Area, and they ran a restaurant in San Francisco and had a little hotel on the pier. And so they saw this opportunity, and they took advantage of it. They came out, and my dad had an interest in firearms. I think just from growing up in Hungary, he would find dismantled firearms laying around because war was going on, and he would take them up to his apartment and play with them. And then when Germans would go up the stairwell to check for the Jews in the housing apartments, he would take a fishing line and tie it around the trigger well and let it down outside the bathroom window. And then when they'd leave the apartment, he'd pull it back up and then continue to play with it. So he just had a genuine interest for it. So when they started out here, my mom basically ran the place. My dad did gunsmithing. He mentored people. He, they just had a really great thing going, and things were really good until they weren't. And then, it kind of just changed the atmosphere. I mean, for a while, this place was known as the Wild West because there really wasn't a lot of management happening. And I think a lot of it was the pressure of my dad going through what he was with my mom. And so it was just, the process that got me here and doing what I'm doing now. So,
do you have like any regrets about coming out?
No,
like now that you're here, are you like embracing it completely?
Tell you what, it's been a difficult path. Like a lot of very life-changing events have happened that's really developed me and to be the person I am. And as hard as they were, I'm really grateful to have had those experiences. And at this point, with what we're doing out here and what our goals is, and the connections I've made and the friends that I have no regrets. And, there's no thought in my mind about leaving. I mean, there are points where I think, man, what is my longevity here? I mean, I live in a state of a bit of fear about California and what my life will be like if this place wasn't here. But it's my family legacy, and I feel like I provide a service to the community that's needed, and so I'm going to do everything in my power to continue that.
What's your passion?
Oh, geez.
If you could think of one thing that like really that you're super, super passionate about, what would it be?
It would be this place. I think it's my canvas. I have a vision of what I want to do out here. I want it to be a destination. I eat, breathe, sleep, play everything here. And what I really want is to just make what's in my head happen in real life. And so it consumes me. And I mean, other than that, I strive to get out in the mountains and get away from Wi-Fi and catch some peace, some inner peace, and evaluate what's happening, but and just kind of grow from the experience. But I think my passion is this right now. And you had asked me that question, maybe less than a year ago, and I probably wouldn't have an answer for you. But at this point, absolutely, like I'm in love with my job. I love my community. I love what I'm doing. I love the people I'm meeting, and so as hard as it can be in the road taken, it's worth it.
For sure. They say that I think Steve Jobs said it, that you look back, like you connect the dots and you see where you are, and you're like, oh wow, like if that wouldn't have happened, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So if you don't mind sharing like some of your journey like that got you here. So like talk about your USC experience, like going to USC and how that was and how you even got there. How did you get to USC?
Well, my dad ran aquatics programs. He had a swimming program that he started called Delta Valley Aquatics in the Stockton area, and it was a very successful program. And so I grew up a swimmer, and I was in the car driving to swim meets early in the morning, and everything was swimming. Come home late at night just to wake up and go to swim practice in the morning. And so it was in my blood, in my genes. Water polo came to me as a freshman in high school. I played on the boys team at a high school. And then I transferred out into a different district where girls water polo happened. And that sport it became so easy for me to be successful. And my dad would take me to the pool on weekends and do special drills. And I thought it'd be punishment, like no other kids have to do this. But really, he was driving me to be successful in the sport. And I love the game. It's what we call flow on a stage, where you just feel the motions and everything works for you. It's like a dance, right? That's how it felt when I played water polo. I could do trick shots, and I could, like a chess game, see the moves happen before they did. And so I was section MVP and all this stuff. So I was contacted by USC, and at the time, my parents were really struggling out here, so there wasn't a lot of support from them. I remember having the negotiations with the coach without support of my parents. And so I went to USC and was immediately, and living out here, I was very isolated. All the kids were playing in cul-de-sacs, and I was the ugly duckling, like kind of teased all the time. And I very much bullied. I have strong memories of being bullied and always awkward, and just always felt like, as a coach's daughter, isolated me. Living out on the range isolated me, and then I go to USC, and the coach, because I was on scholarship, says, well, I would like you to move into an apartment with a Yugoslavian, a German, and a Hungarian. So I live off campus where the rest of the American freshmen are living in the dorms, experiencing normal college life. And so that put me in another position to be kind of like an outsider. And
was that like punishment, you think, or you think he?
No, it was in the best interest of his program. I think it financially worked well for him because they only get so much money to spread across the people they're trying to get on the team. So, I don't think he really thought about what that would do for me. I think he was just doing what he thought was.
Did you speak? Is it Hungarian or is it Russian? What do they speak?
Hungarian. I didn't. I learned a little bit before my last visit. We went and spread my dad's ashes. I competed in a masters swimming competition that happened in Hungary, and my brother went, and some of my family went, and so we they put on a little memorial for us. We went down to the Danbu and spread his ashes. Very emotionally charged time. It took us a long time to do that, but it was, so I prepared by learning as much as I could. And I know that I got laughed at a little bit when I tried to speak the language, and I was like, you guys are kind of assholes.
What do they look like in Hungary? They have light eyes like you and like dark hair, or what do they look like? Like, if you went to, like, when you went to Hungary, did you look like the people that were there?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think, I don't know. They all looked a little angry to me. No, I really don't know. I think, yeah, sure, probably just where we went, different areas. I felt more connected than others in a weird way. But yeah, so I went to, I lived in apartments with these guys and became best friends with my Yugoslavian roommate. But we were so passionate that we would go to the practices and just beat the shit out of each other in the water. And the coach would stand up there and yell, profanity at us, like, what the fuck are you doing, girls? Like, come on. And then we'd hash it out and be best friends again. Right. But my freshman year was hard. I went to school, but, one of my biggest regrets is even in high school is I never really paid attention enough in school and tried hard. I was always kind of propelled by my sport. So, I went and I got my grades, made it to the second year and all that. But I have a story about this girl that I was a rival with at in high school, water polo, Margie. She was really good in Merced, and we were always kind of like battling it out for top, the championships. Like our teams would go and compete in the finals and whatnot, but we were both on national teams, and she was number 3 and I was number 3. We even have some articles in the front page of our local newspaper where, like, in our swimsuits, back to back, arms crossed, rivals in the water or something like that. Yeah. And then other articles I got made fun of were like Zador something special and stuff. And so kind of grew up, it was really a fun time. And then she went to Stanford, I went to USC, and we met up at national championship. Right. And so we're at NCAAs in the final game, and we're playing against each other. And I actually scored the winning goal in the 5th overtime against Margie, who was number 7 in college, and I was number 7. And but I struggled with the lack of support from my family. I struggled with not being able to communicate with my coach, and so I dropped out. And she went on to the Olympics, and I didn't look at a water polo stat for 4 years. Wow. And I moved to New Mexico, and then
did you move straight to Mexico, or did you stay in LA for a while?
No, I left. I left my bike tied up to a pole and just kind of grabbed my stuff and left. And I came here home on the range for a little bit and chose to move to New Mexico where my sister was.
Was your dad and your mom like pissed off?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my dad and I had lots of contention throughout our lives. He was always trying to put his thumb on my tail and be like, no, stay here. And then I would just go and, kind of be like, no, I need my own identity. I don't know what I'm doing in life. Right. And so I kind of went out and sought that. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any regrets where that's concerned as far as like?
Oh, yeah. I could have gone to the Olympics. I could have a degree. I could have really rode out my capabilities in water polo. And I lost that. I try not to live in regret. But yeah, it stings when I think about it.
Do you want to go back and finish your degree at some point? Is that like a thing for you?
I've thought about it. I've looked into it before. I'm just so damn busy all the time.
Right.
Constantly trying to catch up. And, we just have so much to do here. I have so many aspirations of taking this place where I dream it could be. And that consumes my time. And then there's these things that pop up where you have to give them immediate attention, and it really takes you off track from the final goal. Right. So, I'd love to go back to school. But I just don't think it's the right time.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to get this place to like a point where like you're not so involved, where like you can like let it run itself and you can kind of take a step back to do some of the things that you maybe want to do?
Yeah, I play around with that idea. But I'm enjoying so much of what I do. I don't ever want to be completely removed from it, but I'd like for each division of this place to be well ran by, managers who enjoy what they do and have the same kind of mindset that I have, and to allow them to excel in something that will give them great satisfaction in their life's work as well. So it's exciting to be able to provide that opportunity. But at the same time, I think I'll always have my hands in this. I mean, I really feel like I have a responsibility to protect the intention of everything that happens here, to make sure that it's being done the right way, in the right manner. I mean, we're in such a crazy political climate that we have to be careful. And because this is my life, I want to, if I get too far removed from it, I'm afraid that something might, be done with the wrong intention and could cause, an end to it. I mean, right.
Where do you see it going? Like, what would be your ideal? Like, if someone thinks like the Linden Gun Range, what would it look like for you? And like, what would be that like ideal picture?
I want the swimming pool to come back to life. I want the barbecues to come back to life. I want the campers. I showed you the front of the property. I would love to have a place where, 20, 25 people are coming for an event and they could bunk up and go swimming afterwards, barbecue together, have an event, maybe have a live band, and then go get it on the train on the range the next morning, and then return to have, camaraderie, get together, talk about it. You're in an environment that feels comfortable to you. You're all supporting the same, hobby and sport and mindsets. And so, it would be a destination. You go there, you spend a weekend or a week even, and compete in an awesome competition, or take a class from a renowned tactical instructor, or just come here with your family in your RV and camp out for a weekend and go plink away, or go up to a winery and check that out and come back and then shoot a little bit more. I mean, it's just something that people can do away from the city. That's, just where their passions are.
Yeah, for sure. Are you going to seek any like outside investments, you think, to like get everything
that
going?
Just scares me.
Does it?
It does.
Why? Because you don't want to like relinquish control of like 'Cause, I mean, obviously you're giving up equity if you do that, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that has a little bit to do with it also. Relationships don't always work out if somebody has something set in their mind that they think the place should be, and it doesn't go along with what your goals are. There's going to be contention, and you've given up part of your and like we talked about the word control.
Right.
It's not about control, although I believe that everybody has the right to keep control of their life. They surround themselves by the right people and do things the way that they want to. It's their choice. They're in control of that. And so, I'm not completely opposed to the idea. I just think everything would have to align in the right manner. I would have to feel completely safe with this person in order to share the experience with them. And that's, I don't want to be successful alone. I want everybody to feel successful that's involved in this place, because this place isn't just for me, it's for everyone else too. I mean, these competitors come out and they have so much fun, the smiles on their face, the energy, the laughing. It gives me great satisfaction to feel that energy while they're here. So that's what I want.
I think if you find like somebody has the same vision as you, that'd probably be for me, that would be like the first step, find someone who has the same vision for this place. Cause like I can look at it, walk around like we did this morning, walking around the property, I can totally see what you're saying. Like totally. It's like, it's away from the city. It's like I told you, driving in last night, you can see all the stars, it's so like dark, and like, there's not like light pollution or whatever. So you feel like you're in your own like little seclusion, and it would be a place that like, I would want to take my family to come camp. You know what I mean? Where it's awesome. Like, we're going to come here and camp, and then we're going to shoot together and like whatever, because there aren't a lot of places that offer that, like, especially for guys like me, I live down by LA. It's like, where am I going to go camp where I can also shoot? Like, it's not likely I'm going to find a place like that,
Yeah.
So it's usually one or the other,
Yeah. The sunsets, the sunrises, the moonlight, I sit out by my pool that's halfway full with rainwater, and the moon's out and stars are showing, and it's just kind of like, man, I feel like other people should be feeling this right now, because it's so amazing. And so, I like the thought of people coming here, and I walk the range with one of my good friends, Patrick, who helps do a lot of the work around here. He doesn't compete anymore. He's just here doing hard work. He works his ass off, and he does it just because he loves this place too. And so we're walking the range. We're like, no, we cannot put parking here, because that's going to cover up the sunset when we're all over here playing horseshoes and barbecuing our meal, so we want to preserve and share with people the special features of this place.
Yeah, for sure. What's your definition of success? What would be like where you're like, okay, I've made it, I'm successful?
And I recently had this conversation with my new sponsor. So I'm working with Gray Guns. I almost quit competitive shooting just because of the amount of energy it had taken, and I started not having fun in it. I was struggling with my setup, and it financially was putting a strain on the business. And so I was just about to quit, and he approached me, and we had a long conversation. And I squatted with him at a nationals when I was first starting, like a year ago. Mm-hmm. It was like I went to this major match, and I was a brand new shooter, and he was just getting back into it, and I didn't really know who he was at the time, but offered him some water, and he liked that. And so we became friends, and I saw him at the SHOT Show, and we sat, and he made an offer to me, and I was like, wow, this is kind of the support I was looking for, because I really like this guy as a human being. And I was feeling so blessed in a moment of conversation with him. I expressed to him, I was like, I feel what it is to be successful because of the people that is surrounding me, the connections that are coming to me, the energy that I'm feeling, the reciprocation of respects. I feel like I'm finding my success because of my environment. The right people are around me, and this to me is success.
That's awesome. I love that, because I think everyone has their own definition of like what success is, right? Like whether it be financial or otherwise.
Yeah.
I think you define that beautifully, because it's like, it really is. That's what it's about, you know, like having people around you, in my opinion, it's like having people around you that make you feel alive, that make you feel loved, that make you feel, like you said, safe. You know, it's like, I feel safe, completely safe in this environment. Good to go. If there's anything that you could have done differently, like in your life trajectory, what would it be and why?
There's a period in my life where I wasn't making good decisions. And I had a profound moment that brought me back. And I had a moment where I had to look up the stars and say, what the fuck am I doing with my life? And the ringing of my dad when I was not at college and I was not home with him telling me, you were given a gift and you're wasting it. And as I lived 4 years in New Mexico, that those words just kept reappearing in my head. And I just had this one very spiritual experience where I was like, you know what am I doing? And so I made the phone call to my dad and said, I'll be home in a few days. Packed up all my stuff and I went. But it's hard for me to say that I regret anything, because here I am right now, the person that I am. And it's all worth it. You know, had I done this, or if I went there, I would have lost this lesson and I would have been defined as a different person. And it would make me sad to not be who I am right now, because I've dealt with insecurity issues my whole life. I still do. And I know a lot of women do, and a lot of men do too. And I'm feeling that out right now. I was just like, okay, I understand this isn't just a gender specific thing. Right. So, I've, battled with some hardship in the industry with other people. And I just, I'm happy with where I'm at and how it turned out and how my life rolled out. I still have a lot of questions and I'm investigating. It's a very hard thing, like my brother that I never met, that my dad had, and why he never spoke to us about that child, his firstborn son that he lost. And so, in life there's always the lesson to be learned, and I'm just trying to figure it out more and more. And it's a fun journey.
What's your life plan besides the business? What's your life plan at this moment?
Oh gosh. We kind of had this conversation. So, I'm 38. Okay, there it is. I'm 38 and I've never been married, never had kids, but I've helped raise kids, and I've taken care of my mom for 5 or 6 years of her life. And, when she was really unable to take care of herself. And, I've just been kind of married to this business and trying to get it going. The loss of both my parents in such a short period of time took me a long, long path of kind of just mourning them and getting over that. And because they're the closest people to me, I really had never lost anyone, and it happened both at the same time. And so I think I don't know. What was the question again?
Like, what's your life plan?
Yeah. So I have this as my life plan right now. But I would love to just find somebody to do it with. I think in the essence of having success and not wanting to do that alone, I would love to find a partner that would share my happiness, and so I think I'm seeking that, and that would not make me feel complete, but in a way I feel like there's just something that I need for my heart to feel whole, and but I'm not gonna do it, and I'm not going to commit to something until I'm sure that that's correct, in my life. And so that's such a whole nother area of my life that I don't really speak about that much,
For sure.
But
I apologize if it made you uncomfortable. I just wanted to.
No, that's okay.
I know there's something so much, like I can feel it. Like there's something like way more deep about you than just a Linden Gun Range. I know there is. So it's like
I'm passionate about other things and not having enough time is hurtful to me because I love coaching. And when I was going to quit shooting, I was going to, alongside my brother, who now he took over my dad's aquatics program that I used to run. I used to do the shooting range and run the aquatics program. And it was 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, like waking up, pulling covers off the pool, and then getting back here and trying to like run the range. And so I eventually told him, like, I can't do both. I have to choose one. Right. And so my brother stopped working as a mason. And for a year before my dad's passing, we renovated the range, and my brother sat beside him and started taking over the program that is now Ripon Aquatics. So, you know, and I started the first swimming team there, and I have coached alongside my brother in water polo, and I coached the girls' high school and water polo team. And I really connected with some of those girls, and it's really cool to get those messages a few years later from those girls going to college and just saying, you are an amazing coach. I just would like you to know that I appreciate my time with you. And those messages always bring me a little bit to the tears, because they're just like, I mean, it's such a rewarding feeling. And I miss that. You know, I miss my dad always, you know, he raised us as coaches. I was coaching since I was 14. And even before that, I was his demonstrator while he was coaching other kids. And so we're naturally just inclined to doing that. And all of my family were coaches, everybody. So I think that's the one thing that I might be missing, other than, you know, the love of my life. And I have the range. I have a roof over my head. I have food on the table, and I have a community of people that I value very much. So I feel happy, but I feel like I'm not done.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because, like, when you mentioned coaching, I was going to ask about it before you mentioned it, because I was like, you know, some things we talked about this morning at breakfast, you know, with like you said, with the self-esteem issues growing up and the bullying and this and that. There's plenty of other women out there that have experienced the same thing or are experiencing the same things. And to have somebody like you to be a voice of reason and a voice of encouragement and a voice of like, of love, you know, and just being like, hey, I get where I've been where you are.
Yeah. You know? It's easy for me to pick out those kids in a crowd.
Totally.
And so I take caution with them because I can relate. Yep. It hurts to be that person that's awkward. And you may be awkward, but it doesn't mean there's not other people that are similar to you. And there's not more than just what these people are perceiving you to be. You're just having a hard time being confident and being yourself. And so having the opportunity to help people get through that definitely is a passion of mine. Like, 'cause it was so hard growing up, like so hard. I come home from school crying all the time. Right. Like, it was just, yeah.
Looking back on those times, like, where do you think that was coming from? Like, what do you think it was about you that people felt the need to like bully you? Was it that because you were super successful at sports, because you were really good? Was it, you think it was because of the way you looked, or because where you lived, or you think it was just all of the above?
Well, grade school is where most of my incidences happened. But once I hit high school, you know, there was a moment where somebody said they thought I was cute, and I thought that they were mocking me because I was so used to just, I think my 8th grade to freshman year, I kind of blossomed, but I didn't see it. Right. And so going to a different district where nobody had any preconceived notion of who I was, saw me as somebody different than the kids that were teasing me my whole life growing up in Linden. And so I think, I don't know, I just, grade school, the kids were pretty mean. I lived on a shooting range. They all lived in the cul-de-sacs and playing. And I think I was socially awkward. My house burned down when I was 8. I lost a bunch of pictures of my life growing up. So I didn't really have anything. There wasn't a strong conversation in our family about spirituality or emotional, you know, distress. You know, my dad was a hard man. He grew up in war, you know, and so he wasn't exactly the coddling type of person. And so I'm going through these conflicts, and I don't think that I had anyone to really talk to about it and to lift me up, because I go swim and practice and it was like, swim harder, you got to do better. You got to wake up. No, you can't sleep in. Yes, you got to go to the pool. You need to do your homework. You need to do this. It was always just like, when I had a dad who, said he was proud of me, maybe like less than a handful of times, maybe 3 or 4 times in his life. And I remember the day and time and what the, was it raining outside or what was going on? I remember those moments. So, but it was isolating to be out here. And I think that I didn't really have I was always socially awkward. And then as a kid in the water with my dad being the coach on deck, I was always the coach's daughter. So that was sitting in the back of my head and the kids kind of treated me different. And then on top of it being like a little ugly kid, like I could show you pictures. But I mean, and so, and I probably could have responded. I was who I was at that time. And it was hard to constantly be, in the middle of these hurtful situations. And so, it just sucks, man.
It's crazy to see how you've turned out with all of that, right? Because like it could have gone the other way, like I think I went down like a pretty bad path part of my life. Like I've done some things I'm not proud of. And, like I think we all have some stories like that where it's like you went down this journey and thankfully you like changed course or whatever. But being bullied and stuff like that, usually like the people being bullied become like the bullies themselves, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because that's all they know. And growing up with a dad that was hard and like whatever, chances are you're going to end up being hard. Like just the way it is. But it seems like I was telling Jason earlier that I was like, man, I love the fact that I'm out here because like you are seriously like a gentle soul. Like you're like a super kind, like you can just feel it emanating from you. Like it's like gnarly. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's an awesome thing. And the socially awkward thing I find, I think people being socially awkward, especially for people like you, in my opinion, it's a high intellect. Like while other people are busy talking about the other person or whatever, you're talking about ideas and you're talking about things that like you're figuring out on your own because you had a lot of time in isolation, like figuring it all out. Do you think some of that, like getting bullied and feeling like awkward or feeling like insecure or whatever, do you think that drove you to be successful in the water? Like, you think that's what drove you to be as good as you were?
Eventually that probably did come into play, but I think a lot of my drive came from my dad's passion and always going after his approval drove me quite a bit. Even when I would be pulling in 12-hour days, 6-7 days a week, working on this place, I would force him to not give me shit. Well, he'd give me shit anyways, but I would say I'm freaking going for a day, I'm going to leave or whatever. And he always made me feel like I wasn't working hard enough.
Right.
And so, that was my driving point, I think. And then eventually, as I mourned him and the lessons were learned, I can't stop it now. Like I go to sleep at night dreaming of this, that, and the other. And it could potentially, it's very toxic sometimes because separation is so important. And so, I think my drive, eventually kind of analyzing growing up the way that I did, and those feelings did push me to be a better person just because, it wasn't just about as I got older, proving to my dad that I was worth it and good at whatever I did. It was more about me. And then eventually I got to the point where I didn't care what anybody else thought, because growing up being bullied, you were constantly caring.
Right.
Why are people treating me this way? What did I do? Right. Am I really awkward? Like, is it because I look like this? Oh, then they make a joke about, you have dirt on your chin, the fifth one down, or something like that. And it's just like, come on, man. So then you start looking at yourself as there's something's wrong with you and whatnot. But had I not have sports, I probably would have been in a bad place. I think that sports defined me immensely. I mean, we were up at 4:30 in the morning because my range is 30 minutes from pretty much any town surrounding me. I'm perfectly nestled in the center of a 360 of 30-minute towns, right away from me. So 30 minutes to school or to swim practice in the morning, and sometimes the heater would break down. It was 67 degrees in the water, and my dad's telling us to get in the pool. And then we go to school smelling like chlorine, and then we leave school and go right back to swim practice again. And so even though I was hurting and I was having these issues, I was in the water for 2 hours getting the feelings, the emotions, and exhausting them through physical activity, and that gave me a lot of mental peace, I believe. I mean, as a kid, that's not how I thought. I didn't analyze it to be that way, but looking back, I think that was a safe haven for me. Yeah.
I mean, looking back on that too, do you wish your dad would have handled it differently, or are you thankful for some of those, for him being as hard as he was?
Both a little bit, but his journey, he went through a lot. Like, he saw a lot of stuff. He's experienced a lot of hardship, and early on, and kind of investigating my late brother that I never met and whatnot, just kind of understanding him and why, what it must feel like to lose his firstborn son and all that. I mean, I think I understand. It was always easier for me more than my brother to see past the way he was treating us for why he might be treating us. I was very empathetic. I'm naturally empathetic to people, I think. Empathy. But, I think my other family members had a really hard time seeing past that, and they just saw the way that they were being treated, and it caused a lot of friction and resentment. And I mean, my whole life was just, no matter what, I still want my dad to be proud of me. And and nobody else is here helping him. I'm going to help him. It's my mom. My mom's sick. I'm not going to leave her hanging. I have to do this. Everybody, all the rest of my family's gone off to have children. Well, this is what I got to do. And that's what I did.
It's kind of funny. I'm 37, and the first time, it was January. It's funny, we remember like the days and the times. I remember the exact date. It was in January, like, I'm sure, probably January 15th or something. And my dad told me for the first time that he was proud of me. And I was like, I'm 37 years old. And I mean, it wasn't like an emotional moment at all. It was more like a fuck you, dude. Like, my whole life, I've been waiting for that. And then finally get the I'm proud of you. And it's like, fuck off, dude. So it's funny because that for me was always like a drive. My father wasn't really around much, like, growing up. And so, like, my stepdad was there. And my stepdad and I were tight. Like, we were cool. We had a very, very close relationship. But with my father, there was always this weird, like, even though he wasn't in the picture, I always felt like, I need to, like, achieve so much. So, like, maybe he'll notice me. Mm-hmm. Maybe he'll, like, figure it out. Like, I'm pretty badass, or I'm kind of a cool kid, or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just super strange. Looking back on it now. And it was funny because, like, I had a conversation with his sister, who I had never met my whole life. We met on Facebook, and his dad, my dad's dad, my grandfather, started a whole new family, like, in his 50s or 60s. So, like, I have an aunt that's like my age. So, like, we met each other on Facebook, and, like, so we were talking about stuff and some of the things, like some of the hangups that I have with my father and whatever. And I felt like at liberty that I could share those things with her. She felt like a safe person. She turned out to be a total whack job. But anyway, I shared with her that, I was like, it's kind of weird. Like, my dad, like, all the things that I've done in my life, I've done it without his help. Like, he's never helped me once, like, with anything. If anything, he's hindered my success, by, like, just being a burden. Like, I would help him out and he would totally screw me over. And, like, he was never there for me. It was always the other way around. And I was like, and he's never once, like, even said, like, I'm proud of you, man. Like, you've never needed me. I'm proud of you. So I shared that with her. And then she was at his house. And then, like, a couple weeks later, a week later, he comes over. And I'm real proud of you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that was genuine, dude. Whatever, guy. But it's funny, though, how, like, as adults, like, that still is, like, a driving force for us, to be, like, to make our parents proud and to be, like, good, upstanding citizens and work hard and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, for me, I believe that that's the same push I have to provide to my community, the people who come out here and enjoy this place, what we're offering. I want them to be proud of the successes and to be a part of the journey. I like to encourage them to be involved with the club because the sport is really fun and competing is really fun, but there's a lot of fun in building the match. There's a lot of fun in just being around and involved, and it's a feel-good thing. You help out and it feels good, and it's for a sport that you support. And so, I feel like I still have the same kind of need to, make people feel proud of what's happening.
Right. Do you feel like part of that too is like you want to make your dad's legacy, like keep his legacy alive? Is that part of that, you think? Because it was his range and that?
Yeah. From the grave, he's still making me do it. Yeah. I definitely, it's important to me that it's always hard for me to talk about their story. I know it's on my website a little bit, and other people posted that for me. Right. My dad has had so many offers. Sports Illustrated wanted to do an interview with him. He's had Peter Jennings interviewing him, and when he had a reloading shop down in the front. So there was so many people who wanted to tell his story, and he just hated it. He hated talking about it. And that's probably where Maya is like, I don't do podcasts. Where that comes from. But he just was very humble about it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Do you think, you talked about getting back into coaching, but do you think you're going to start doing that soon or what?
Right now, I have such a full schedule traveling for competitions.
Yeah.
And then every second that I'm not traveling for competitions, I'll be here helping run competitions with my amazing crew. Yeah. And then trying to improve the range. And so the hardest part about I started coaching again and I started connecting with some of the little kids, it feels good to have a parent stop you while you're walking out off the deck and just say, my kids just love you when you're there and they would like you to come back and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I just literally had the conversation with my brother because he has to have a schedule, and I just can't keep popping in and out of these kids' lives, really, so I have to be able to commit, and I'm just not going to be in a position to commit anytime soon.
Yeah. I get that. I think that's admirable for you to even admit that. Like, I can't commit to that, so I don't want to go in unless I can go all in. Totally cool. I just hope, like, from the outside looking in, I hope at some point it becomes like a priority for you.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that is because I think the gun range is amazing. Like, I love being out here and stuff. But I can speak from personal experience, like the coaches that I've had in my life that made like a lasting impression, like on my life, that like basically got me through some of the darkest times of my life were a lot of my coaches and teachers. And that to me is like the biggest difference you could possibly make in a kid's life. You know what I mean? And so I think that, I'm not trying to push you.
Well, I just got the chills because I know huge. This to be true.
And it's like, and like I said, you emanate like empathy and passion and love and like all the positive things that like people need from coaches. Cause a lot of these kids, like myself included, I wasn't getting it at home for a while. So it was like, I sought it outside of the home with my coaches and teachers and whatnot. And a lot of those coaches and teachers I'm still in contact with to this day, thanking them for all they did for me and believing in me and all the above. So
yeah, and I dream about that, my swimming pool. I mean, my dad built that pool to be just 5 yards short of a normal length pool. Right. And so if I just had a little bit more, I could actually do lessons out here for kids, whether they're private or in group settings. But, the way that my dad coached me, he paid attention to very fine detail. And it's very easy for me to teach those things. I don't think they're getting from other programs. My brother's program, for sure. He's got an amazing, group of kids, and sending him off to colleges and Olympic trials and stuff. I'm just so proud of him. But yeah, I would really love to have the opportunity to do something like that here. It's close to home. I've got Linden. They have a swimming team, and these kids that play water polo, I just would love to spend some one-on-one time with them. One of my other businesses is I weld. I used to build water polo boards. My dad started it, and then my brother built the boards for a while, and then a family friend was building the boards, and he had a couple of other people building boards, and then eventually I learned how to weld, and then I had my jig set up. I was welding all these huge frames and cross beams and drilling them and then painting them and then putting the acrylic and routing them out. And so I have these rebound boards called the Zador board. And now I have a manufacturer with one of my best friends who's my partner, and have some of those boards set up and just have the kids come out and teach them some of the basic techniques to give them the confidence, to do that. But, that dream is a very expensive dream to have a swimming pool put in, and actually run a program out of it would be, a little far-fetched. But I'm not going to turn off the possibility of that being coming to fruition. So
I think you can get the investment for it if you find the right person, that is willing to help with that, because they believe in the mission. They believe in what you're trying to do. And obviously it's putting another hand in the pot, that you have to be comfortable with and safe with and stuff like that. But I think that that's probably the way forward.
Yeah, the strongest argument for something like that is, they'd also have to be a part of the program, because I got so many moving parts here, and I've already spread really thin. Yeah. So having somebody who can help support the program, do all the little things that our team, because we're such a small program, we're such a small company, we just don't have that room for expansion. So it'd really have to make sense, and like you said, be passionate about it as well. Yeah. And so that would just enrich our lives out here. Everybody who's involved, anybody who comes out here would have access to that, and it would be a beautiful thing.
Do you have a vision board? Do you believe in them?
I've done one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in them. And I think it's because I'm hearing you talk, and there's so many things that you want to do, that you're going to do. But sometimes I'm guilty of it, where there's all these things I want to do, but I'm spread so thin because I'm going in all these different directions. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember who said it, but they're not having a sense of direction is like being like a rudderless ship, stuck in a harbor. You're just going in circles. You're not really accomplishing anything. So I hope at some point, you can sit down with whoever, and have an actual vision. This is the vision I want to take. Okay, now how do we do that? How do we get it to where we need to go? Whether it be an investment, injection of money or whatever, with a good business partner, or I don't know.
What I do know about how I've achieved large part of my success has been, ideas come up and people present you with an opportunity. And for me, it's all about timing. If it comes at the right time, it falls into place, it happens successfully. I won't force it. I won't go out and seek it, but I'll talk about it. And that's been very powerful for me, to just talk to some people, and then eventually they want to help out. And so we create that connection early on. So, I would love to the opportunity presented himself, and it presented itself. And if the timing felt right, then I would know, because that's how I've been basically doing this. When I took this place over, I didn't have a degree in business. I didn't know how to run a business. Yeah. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Yeah. All of a sudden, my dad, who was running a sole proprietorship, who was probably not doing everything correctly, right? Oh. I'm given this huge responsibility in California. My dad was so old school, and I'm so oh my God, I better protect everything. Yeah. So tried to do everything correctly. And I basically have been learning since day one on how to do this job. And so I've come to my own system where I'm sure people ask, well, why hasn't she done that yet? Or why is this more important than that? I just say, because it is, because this is the way that it's happening. I cannot force it. There's not enough energy in me to do that. And I believe wholly that the right will come through, and it will do it. What is going to happen the way it should happen will happen, as long as I'm surrounding myself with the right people and ridding of the negativity.
Totally. No, it's funny because even hearing you talk, like I was like, I'm thinking like all these thoughts like while you're talking, right? And I'm like thinking about the bullying comments and like people like just being assholes and whatever. And I'm like, that's all jealousy. Like, look at you. Like,
they had nothing to be jealous of when I was a kid, especially.
That's the deal. They had a lot to be jealous of. Like, thinking about, like, I walked into this, so just so you guys can, like, get a picture of where I am. Like, so I'm in, like, a trailer. This be like a single wide or double wide?
Single wide.
I don't know much. Yeah, so a single wide trailer. And it's, like, pergo floors in here that Christine did herself.
Well, I did have some help. It's not by myself, but...
Right. But she did these floors. I go in the bathroom. It's all like remodeled. Christine did that herself. She welds. She remodels bathrooms. She does flooring.
I like the tile.
She's like a water polo professional, like should have and could have gone to the Olympics. She's a competitive shooter. What are you talking about? They don't have anything to be jealous of. It's like people like... You're doing so much, and I think a lot of that is like you're probably because you're so humble and so like just in your zone, like you don't even notice like how much goodness you have. Like it's like you have a lot to offer, and I think that's amazing.
Well, but the thing is I would like to share it, you know, and it's so unfortunate because it's such a waste of people's energy to be jealous when they could be a part of it or to, you know, embrace it and say, wow, you know, this could happen. I would like to make this happen for myself as well. I think we live in an environment where a lot of people are paying attention to the wrong people by watching TV and stuff and
social media.
Yeah. They're learning their behaviors in the way of life through fake avenues. And I just, it's, you know, just, yeah, I wish people not to feel that way about me, but I realize that there's probably some of that out there and it's too bad, but you get to know me and just come and enjoy it with me.
Listen, you got to support her right across the table. I support you 100%. And if I ever get to a point financially where it's like, I got some money I can throw, I know where it's going for sure. I'm going to ask you a couple questions that I ask everybody that comes on here. First one being that if you had one person or one book, or both, doesn't matter, that inspired you the most your entire life, what would that person be, or who would that person be, or what would that book be, and why?
It has to be my dad. I mean, I've been so fixated on him and everything through my childhood on him. I love my mom, and I'm, you know, proud of who she is and how she handled everything that she had to go through. But by far, he was the most impressionable person on me. And somehow I could always see why he was acting the way he was. And I felt sad for him for some of the things he experienced. And as I get older, I appreciate that sentiment much more. And so, yeah, he was humble. He would have given his shirt. He did to so many swimmers whose parents couldn't afford to put them in the program. My dad would pick them up in the morning, take them home at night, making sure that they went to swim practice, making sure they did homework. And a lot of his energy came away from his own family to care for these kids and get them into college and give them an opportunity at life. Right. And I respect that. And I sacrificed a little bit of myself, and I was once jealous of those kids that I see him give so much of his love to. And then we come home and he'd tell me I need to work harder, you know? So the love that I saw him give those kids was much different than what love I was receiving from him. But I always, just for whatever reason, was always to have a sense of understanding. And, you know, I remember crying to my mom, I don't even have a dad. I have a coach for a dad. Like, I need something more. And, you know, but nothing would change. It was my life was the way it was. And I don't hold him accountable for that. I appreciate him for the lessons, and to watch him being such a upstanding person in the community, providing people an opportunity. Like, I love that about him, and I'm just very proud of who he was.
It takes a very, very special person, honestly, to be able to take some of that hurt and some of that stuff and come from a place of understanding and empathy. I mean, in my adult life, like, I'm working on that, like with my own parents, to be like, okay, what's your story? Like, where did you come from? You know what I mean? Like, maybe you weren't the best parents because you didn't have the best parents, or maybe you experienced things that, I don't know. You know what I mean? So trying to come from that place of understanding. So I think it really does take a special person to be able to remove themselves from their own hurt and be like, hey, you know, it is what it is. And so to be able to see your dad's like intentions were good, you know, is, I think it's a beautiful thing. The other question is, if you had one lesson that you learned through your life that you wish you can impart on somebody else. Like you can tell them that lesson to save them the heartache that you maybe went through. And a young person, whatever, coming up through life, and it's like, you know what? I wish somebody would have taught me that lesson. I wouldn't have had to experience. What would that lesson be and why?
Wow. I think one of the biggest lessons I had to learn for myself is just to find the confidence and believe in who you are. Be committed to your mission to really understand your motives and why you're making the decisions you are. If you have conflict in your life, look internally and see who you're surrounding yourself with. And if you're getting road rage or you're angry about this and angry about that, I mean, I felt that way before in my life, and I've seen people act that way towards me and to other people in my life. And I could always just make sure that I remained biased to myself too. If I'm making a decision, because I'm not perfect, I've definitely made the wrong decision before that I've had to learn the lesson from, right? Hard-earned lesson. But being humble enough to take that information and say, okay, there is this other side this person perceives the situation to go. What can I take from that so that I don't make this mistake again? And I didn't get that lesson from my parents. I got it through just experiencing life. I wish somebody would have told me how important it was to take a moment and meditate on the who's and the whys and the hows and what your mission in life, what is important to you, and to go after that. I think there's just always enough room for that, because everybody can be a better version of themselves. You just got to keep working at that. And it took me a long time to figure that out. But now my work that I'm doing is what's making me so happy, because I'm changing my decisions and my processes so that I am now finding out what works, and makes me happy. Because for a long time, I just was not happy. I could not find that. Right. And now I finally am. I really am. I'm happy and grateful.
Super cool. Well, I seriously appreciate you coming on the show. I know that you were nervous as hell to do it, but it was awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you seriously for letting me stay here and hang out with you. And
you're welcome anytime.
So we're definitely going to have to make this a regular occurrence. I'm going to have to come out here and train with you. And if there's anything that I can do on my end to promote you, to promote your business, if there's any connections that I have that I can connect you with to come out here and get more notoriety for the range, I'm more than willing to help. So
in the essence of that, I mean, if you really connect with somebody who's just an amazing person, has the right attitude that you think would appreciate this place, I'd be happy to host them and to create a special experience for other people to come out and enjoy it. That's my mission. You can come from all over into California or whatever, and you shoot your guns and have a good time, learn something new, hang out with good people, and just have a good time.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
I look forward to coming back, and you can show me how to shoot. I'm okay.
I saw you shoot. You're fine.
No. I mean, I got a lot of work. I mean, I've gotten better since you saw me shoot, but but we'll see though. I need to get the rust out, and then maybe we'll shoot tonight.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right.
Thank you for listening to My Backstory. Stay motivated and stay connected off the show. Follow at my_backstory_ to be a part of the journey to recovery and to see where your story goes. Or visit us online at hereismybackstory.com.